And then the next month or two is just tweaking things, getting it more and more dialed down. So, your cost of acquisition or cost per lead might be high initially, but then over probably a 90-day to 120-day period, you're chasing that down, and then probably in that 120 to, let's say, 150-day mark, you're basically at a point where you've probably hit your lowest cost per lead, and that's about as good as it's going to get. Hey, welcome to the podcast, everyone. Today's podcast is pretty exciting. We're going to talk about paid ads and the various paid ads and how they can help your local business be found. So we're going to cover Google ads, of course, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, and that goes without saying. A lot of the Facebook ads you're going to want to incorporate in, let's say, Instagram or what have you. So let's jump right into it here. I'm just going to move my mug around a little bit. First one we're going to talk about is Google ads. And so Google ads are really set up for a high intent, high execution. So what we're talking about, the best businesses for this would be, let's say, plumbers, HVAC, dentists, attorneys, repair services, garage door repair companies, anybody that needs something like right now. So, and basically, I'll just give you an example. This is a copier situation here, where what you can do with paid ads is you can really kind of control the headline. So, color copier leasing at $95 a month. So really, it's about, most requests are usually time and money, right? They want it like, okay, you're in the ballpark, what else do you have? And then they actually click on it. So what's nice about Google ads is you can experiment with that headline in such a way that you can't, or it's more difficult to do that with your SEO. So here's a point in case. If you go down to this headline, if you will, managed printer and copier services, Egan, there is a, here in the meta, I guess it would be meta description, maybe meta tag, meta description, I get them confused. Anyway, copier leases start at $69 a month. Okay, so that's helpful. That's just copier leases. In this situation, that's black and white, and this is color. So you can't get, it's hard to get that to pop the way you can with paid ads. So the way to look at paid ads as it relates to Google, hang on here, I just got to get a sip of tea, is your cost per lead is going to be a bit more with Google ads, but you're going to get results right away. So you want to measure all this. So a lot of times we'll put a separate tracking number on Google ads in case somebody calls off of that, and just measure the effectiveness. Obviously the form submission, landing pages, they all need to be tied into Google ads so you can measure it. Google ads will also increase your traffic a bit. So if you're just getting started, really the playbook is run some Google ads, get your website going, and that will help drive traffic and rank to some degree over time. And then maybe you're a ways into it, maybe you're 6 months into it, and evaluate, do you continue to use the ads or do you drop them? So a lot of companies look at ads and SEO and they say, okay, SEO are not going to create a lot of leads. I'm piling a lot of money into SEO for about 3 to 6 months. And then around that 3 to 6 month mark, they start to create leads, and that cost per leads starts to be much more reasonable than, let's say, paid ads. And then over time, what they do is just a blended average and say, okay, my cost per lead is this, or my cost per acquisition or CAC is this. Okay, I'm okay with that. Let's just keep going. And you either, spend a little bit more on paid ads. There does become a point of diminishing return on paid ads that, you find that anything beyond this point, you're really not getting a decent cost per lead. So you just want to incrementally move into that and to get the results. Facebook. So Facebook ads are interesting in that basically, who are these for? So basically, Facebook ads you can gear it again towards local business because Facebook does a really good job of demographics. Google does a really good job as well. And in both these scenarios, you want to geocentric the ads. So if you're a local service business, be careful there. Make sure that's dialed in for the immediate area that you want to service. You don't obviously want to be pulling leads from some area that you're not servicing. So, and you can do the same to some degree with Facebook ads. And this is more about building brand awareness. So you're going to want to, let's say, promote events, engaging the community a little bit more. And this is really good for restaurants, saloons, gyms, boutique retailers, service providers with a strong, visual element. You can carry this over into attorneys, but I would argue probably the best attorney that you would, or scenario you would play this over to is, let's say, estate attorneys, right? Where there's a little bit nuance to it. You can educate people with your ads, build trust, and eventually, somebody will call you. I don't know that there's a lot of people call estate. There probably is a fair amount of attorneys that get called like in emergency situations for estate planning and things like that. But the ideal customer that you want, I would assume, as an estate attorney is somebody that you've built trust with through a combination of Facebook and YouTube, and they're ready to buy or at least meet with you. So that's the advantage of Facebook. Facebook offers a really robust demographic scenario where they can really figure out your audience, and with the proper Facebook marketing person, you can really dial it in and kind of go from there. So let's jump over to YouTube. YouTube is something that we don't have a lot of experience, so I'm just gathering as much information for you as possible. But basically, YouTube ads, again, a way to build brand awareness. And I believe you can get a geocentric target going with these. A good opportunity for your business to tell your story, build trust, everything that goes with it. YouTube is a great venue. Obviously, this podcast is on YouTube. It's a chance to more or less visually see us, see some of the things we're doing, and so it's a good opportunity. So this again, I think, goes back to something that's more nuanced. I would pursue YouTube ads if you were, let's say, a med spa, plastic surgeon, maybe a estate planner. Again, things that have to, they're high dollar conversions, but they have to build some trust, and YouTube is a great way to do that. And what we're finding with that's a YouTube ad, but also I would argue too that you should consider doing a lot of work with YouTube more and more, because the AIs are reaching, you are looking for that human creation and that human touch, and they're looking for likes and trust and reviews and everything that goes with it. So YouTube is a good venue for that. So I would say, here's just a couple of stats. I think I'm just going off the top of my head, so it's probably not entirely accurate. But if you take Google, and Google includes YouTube, I want to say their revenue from ads globally are 260 to 280 billion, 260 to 280 billion dollars a year. Meta is up there as well. I want to say their number is like 100 120 billion, if not more, in revenue. So, that's how important ads are. General costs, what you should expect to pay. So the average click for Google here, hang on one sec. is around $2.32. Now, obviously, for a trial attorney, divorce attorney, plastic surgeon, that's going to be much higher. But for, let's say, common services such as plumbing, heating, HVAC, that's typically what you're going to pay. And again, it varies market to market. Manhattan's obviously going to be different than Bighorn, Wyoming, right? So average cost per impression for Google search is around $38.40. That's, per 1,000 impression, if you will. And then Google display ads are 58 cents a click, and then cost per impression is $3.12. So YouTube, cost per click is $3.21, around 10 cents a view, if you will, and then cost per 1,000 is about $3.67, which is a great value. I would argue that YouTube doesn't convert as well as some of these others. Meta, cost per click on average is 68 cents, and then average cost per 1,000 is $8.17. Again, a great deal, but that I would say the conversion is not going to be as good as Google paid ads. Okay, so you're going to want to set a budget for all this, obviously, if you're just starting out. So define your goals, what your objectives are. I would try to come to some realization of what it's going to cost per lead, and then what you're willing to give up to acquire a customer, right? And then you could work backwards with all this. But basically, you want to start small and just kind of build and iterate and play with it. But you're going to want to probably have a budget around $5 to $20 per day per platform, if you will. So if you're very limited, if I had to, again, I'm not sure, what business you have, but usually Google Ads is what you're generally going to lead with. And then, figure out, what's your customer lifetime value. If you're an estate attorney, that's going to be different. For a plumber, it's somewhat, much different in that it's just a one-off in most cases at best. So, and then you have, B2C, again, that's where Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, for video content to help drive traffic. There's basically, the key thing is that you're figuring out your cost per acquisition and all this, like we laid out before. Generally for a lot of our clients, as it relates to, plumbing services and stuff, it can range between $50 and $75 once it's efficient. It usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks to start to even see anything. And then the next month or two is just tweaking things, getting it more and more dialed down. So, your cost of acquisition or cost per lead might be high initially, but then over probably a 90-day to 120-day period, you're chasing that down, and then probably in that 120 to, let's say, 150-day mark, you're basically at a point where you've probably hit your lowest cost per lead, and that's about as good as it's going to get. You can try turning up the spend to spend more, but be careful there. You're going to see, at some point, you're going to see a point of diminishing return. So that's about all I have to say. Again, I'm just going to give you a quick recap. So plumbers, electricians, Google Ads, restaurant, cafe, probably Facebook, Instagram type ads, fitness, salon, spas, again, Facebook, YouTube, e-commerce, local, kind of Facebook, Google, real estate, legal, probably Google Ads and YouTube as well. Again, in those scenarios, they're looking for building trust, understanding, what you're capable of doing. So you're going to want to pick a platform based on your business type and goals. set aside at least $150 to $500 a month to run a test over the course of a month. Define your, write down what's acceptable for a cost for a lead. If let's say you're doing a repair and the average repair is $150 to, let's say, $200, well, what are you willing to give up to acquire that lead? Are you willing to give up $20 or $30? If you're willing to give up $30, then you need to divide that by 3, okay? And then your lead cost needs to be around that $7 to $10 range, because the reality is you're going to get 3 leads and you're probably going to convert a third. Now, if you can do better than that, that's great. You're ahead of the game. But just kind of understand your numbers and work them backwards. And then make sure you're running A/B tests. So as you're doing these ads, make sure you're switching out ads or trying different things to move the everything, move like the click-through rate. In other words, if people are seeing your ads but they're not clicking on them, or they're clicking on them but they're not converting, right? You're going to want to play with all of that to try to accomplish better metrics. A good agency will help you with that and be proactive with that throughout your relationship. Review the performance probably realistically every 4 weeks. Make some of those changes and then iterate, let's say every 2 weeks after that. So what else can I tell you? I just have a bunch of notes here for you in this area. So I think that's about it for today. Now, if you have any questions about Facebook ads, my team and I will be more than happy to answer them. I've got a group of great Facebook people Google ads and Facebook ads that can walk you through any questions, answer any questions you might have, and go from there. So join us next week. We're going to be talking about AI tools for your business. It's going to be a great episode. Tools that you can use right now that can help move your business forward in the digital area for SEO, and in some cases, these AI tools will help you with managing your various ads and ad spend and creativity there too as well. So any questions, feel free to go to our website. It's called localseotactics.com. We have a free audit button. We have a phone number. Feel free to call us. We're very reachable. Every once in a while you get me. So hope you're having a good time here with all this information, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.